Good morning, good morning, good morning. Hello, everyone. It's Saturday morning, April 29th. Thank you so much for joining me today. My name is Nicole Buffong. I am your host for today's show. I am so excited to bring this discussion to our audience, to our members, to everyone that listens and follows M4MM. So today's episode, I know we usually stick with cannabis because I want to jump right in here today. I've got a lot of guests and a lot of information to cover, so I want to get right to it. So I know this platform, we usually talk about cannabis as medicine. It's part of our ethos. It's what we do as an organization. We are educators. We are advocates that help people to understand, give them the right resources, helping them to understand how to use cannabis as medicine, how to become involved with the cannabis industry. Well, today I'm really excited because on this platform, you've heard me before talk about psychedelics. Now, that is for some people could be a scary word because it has been put into our culture that psychedelics are things that make you go crazy. Well, the same thing was said about cannabis, and we know that that's not true. So we have to understand and recognize the source of this information. And so I wanted today to just give you an introduction to psychedelics. I'm excited to announce that M4MM is going to be having a feature on their website talking about psychedelics, and we'll get into that a little bit later. But today, I had the pleasure a few months ago of putting together a panel for the National Cannabis Festival. And I decided to bring together some amazing women that are leading the conversation around advocacy in cannabis, and just so happened to be really, really influential in the psychedelic space as well. And so it's interesting because our conversation will touch on why and how the advocacy in cannabis correlates to the advocacy in decriminalizing and legalizing psychedelics. And so I'm excited to have that conversation. But real quick, I wanted to talk about the title of today's show. It's called The Psyche of Psychedelics. Now, let's jump into what that means. Psyche is a noun that means soul or personality, right? And psychedelic can be a noun or an adjective and means of relating to or being drugs, such as LSD, which is a psychedelic, a synthetic psychedelic, not a natural psychedelic, and capable of producing abnormal psychic effects, such as hallucinations and sometimes psychotic states. This is Wikipedia's definition, right? And so I wanted to make sure that we were touching on information related to psychedelics so people are informed and educated. We're not going to sugarcoat anything here. This conversation is going to be honest and truthful, and I'm going to let my guests introduce themselves. So In case you did not get to National Cannabis Festival, it doesn't matter. We got rained out. Shout out to the National Cannabis Festival people. They tried their best, but they could not stop Mother Nature. But we were there ready to have the conversation around the psyche of psychedelics. So I'm going to bring up my guests, who are these amazing women, advocates and educators within their communities that are going to introduce themselves and tell you a little bit about what their experiences have been with psychedelics. So without further ado, welcome to the show, Christina, the Dank Duchess, and Mary Jane. Hello, ladies. How are you today?
Hi.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you so much for being here with me today. It really is an honor to have you all. I'm so excited that we get to have this conversation virtually. We're not together on a stage, but this is best. This is better than that. We get to reach our audiences from wherever we are. And so I'm going to let you all introduce yourselves and give us a little 30-second snippet of who you are, and you know what is it that you have and why you have used psychedelics. Okay, so let's start with Christina. Please tell us who you are.
Oh man, I am Chris. Straight up just a lover. I think we all are. But naturally, there's a lot of titles, a lot of things that I do. I'm a community activist, but I'm a veteran, a mother, a wife, and I'm also, someone that runs a lot of different organizations as an advocate for medical patients, veterans, and those that are facing different adversities. I am a mind, body, spiritual practitioner that grew up indigenous off of the woodlands. And so I was able to practice plant medicine in my natural upbringing, living off the land, like as a child. So having those practices passed down to me, actually being there to know how to, see what that looks like. That's how I got into the world of plant medicine. That's how I got into the world of understanding how to heal. I'm a very rare patient that has been advocating for all of us in the diversity. As we know, our healthcare is not necessarily all for everyone. So that's who I am in the world of knowledge for this person.
Thank you, Christina. Mary Jane, please tell us who you are.
Tatsumeri, everybody. I'm pinching myself that I'm actually on stage with you three queens, honestly. Yes, hugs from afar. Mary Jane Oatman, Tatsnik Achtik Oikaloti Token, Katsiaya Nunam Hanyuat. I have to thank the creator for joining us all here together. I'm joining you now from the ancestral homelands of my people in present-day Idaho in the Pacific Northwest, the Nez Perce Indian Reservation. And it's, I guess, just a natural fit to be a plant medicine ambassador. And for the work that we do shared as a sisterhood is just really providing the voice for this wonderful medicine and uplifting the duality of the sacredness between psychedelics and cannabis. So that's really where I find myself in this place, and also ensuring that the divine feminine spirit is not lost in this madness to commodification.
No. Whew, thank you. That was a mouthful. Thank you, Mary Jane. Thank you for joining us today. Duchess, please tell us who you are.
I just want to say, unfortunately.
Oh no. Oh no.
But I did get that introduction. I'm so happy to be here with you, everybody. Are you hearing me?
Yes, we can hear you now. Yes.
You hearing me?
Yes.
Okay. So hi everyone, I'm the Dank Duchess. I am a hash educator and cannabis cultivator and writer and public speaker. My whole mission in life, as it ends recently, like the last almost 10 years, is to really help people focus on self-sustainability with regard to their wellness. So I'm all about growing your own and making your own, and education and the freedom that comes from being educated as such. So I have utilized the media, whether it's print media or social media or film media, to push this idea that we are the best people to know what's right for us. And therefore, as we have hands and can grow, and we have hands and can make, okay with all the commercialism that's out there. I'm not anti that specifically. However, if it's about me and mine, it's about taking care of myself. So I'm a big advocate for that. And of course, with
Yes.
all the sacred medicine, specifically cannabis, hashish, and mushrooms.
Yes. Yes, 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 yes. Thank you so much. All of your expertise is amazing. I'm so thrilled to have you on today, all of you. Thank you for bringing the feminine, divine energy that you bring everywhere you go. Thank you so much. Okay, so let's get right into it. First question: what psychedelic treatment have you used and why?
Okay.
Who wants to go
Can we
first?
go there? Oh my God, Cole, are we really?
Yes.
Okay, yes. Okay.
Well, I like
Oh, wow.
mushrooms.
I like them all.
I like mushrooms. I have lots of paintings of mushrooms in my place because I really like mushrooms. I have done LSD. I've done some DNT, but for me, my heart is with the mushrooms. Those
and
other
what is the
two
name? What's the
were
name?
religious experience.
Duchess, I'm sorry to interrupt you. What is the name that is associated with mushrooms? Just so everybody knows, because I'll be mentioning it.
Oh,
You'll be mentioning it.
psilocybin,
Mhm.
and psilocin, which is how it's broken down into. So psilocybin mushrooms, the ones where you squeeze them, they'll be bruised, and most likely they'll turn blue or purple, right? So I have been involved with this is 23, so maybe going on about 19 years. It was when I first cultivated. I was in Florida. I was doing all kinds of bad things in Florida. Bad things, growing weed, growing mushrooms. I was in Florida, and once I had my mind opened from the rigidity of just say no with the cannabis, then the next step in my boyfriend's eyes in opening me up was going to be psilocybin. And it was amazing. It was so amazing, though, and so intense that I think I developed a little bit of fear of being that open. So I didn't engage in it for a number of years, maybe 6 or 7 years. And it wasn't until I got into California and got back into really feeling how these sacred plants and sacred fungal medicines would be good for me, got back into it. And it's been for two reasons. One, dealing with some childhood BS. We all have some, and I have been pretty efficient in packaging all my shit into compartments, which by the years are starting to crumble. Like literally just boxes falling out, and it's really kind of devastating. And the other thing is to enhance my connection to self so I can keep creating. That's it really for me. I've really, really, really packed away all my bullshit into all these boxes, and they're falling out, and I won't be able to pay more.
Wow.
So that's what it is.
Thank you for
I
sharing.
love it.
Wow. Mary Jane, what has been your experience?
So I'm gonna have to just kind of flip it from the Duchess. I actually have a sister that's about 17 months older than I am, and she's that fearless sister. She is out there experiencing the world, a little bit ahead of me, and then coming back and sharing her wonderful stories. Well, when I was 16 was the first time that I went foraging and to go and harvest. And my sister had her first new car, and we're driving around the back mountains looking for cow patties, walking all over the place. Well, we actually, realized that our homelands are robust and rich from plant entheogens. And because of the presence of the cattle industry in our region, we have a lot of natural foraging places. And that has been, my first experiences with my big sister on the psilocybin side of things, and I've had nothing but wonderful experiences. My third time taking mushrooms, some Mexican cubensis, it was with my mom and dad. I mean, I've always been enveloped with love and being in very safe spaces to be able to have that kind of medicine to connect and stay rooted, not so much as an escape. And when I found myself kind of leaning in that direction, I found I'd have a little bit more of a scary, I guess you could say, experience. And one of them I actually wrote about. The very first story that I ever had published is out in Paul Krasner's Psychedelic Trips. The very, very last story in there is from Mary Jane Oatman. And I share my first story, my first LSD story.
Wow. With your parents, I can't imagine. I mean, I smoked weed first time with the first adult I smoked smoked weed with was my dad. He was a Rasta. He believed in cannabis as medicine. And the first thing he said to me was, "I don't want you rolling your cannabis in this blunt." He was against tobacco, so he was like, "Put it in a J, put it in a spliff, put it in a glass, put it in a pipe. Don't come back to me with this blunt. What is this?" I was in college, and so that's what everybody was doing at the time. But I can't imagine tripping with my parents. I think it would be an amazing experience. Totally awesome. We would probably let go of a lot of trauma, and a lot of truth would come out. Chris, please share with us your first psychedelic experience and why. And why did you choose to use psychedelics?
I started eating off. I was foraging. So I grew up agricultural. So I was eating stuff as a child and I didn't even know what I was doing. Right. So there's that. So, going in the woodlands and, what poison, mushrooms are, which ones not to eat, what to look for, and foraging and having actual medicine men and women coming to the land and foraging and getting roots medicine and having it put on you and stuff as a child. So you grew up in this normalcy that, that's the way it is. Right. And so when I got sick, cannabis, I knew cannabis. I experimented with cannabis before I went in the military. I said that, I knew that. And then when I got sick, Timmy, my son, had saw Dr. Sandra Gupta. And that was the first entrance into, wait a minute, there's more to it. And so when I moved here to get access to it, I started with cannabis. Well, then I started progressing because of the long-term use of the actual pharmaceuticals. And then they gave up on me. Literally, the doctors had nothing else we could do. So I went back to my roots. And so from there, I had researched and alchemized and started thinking, okay, what medicines? So I started looking at ayahuasca. I started looking at, DMT from ayahuasca and what that looked like for the brain health. And then I started looking at CBC and CBN and not just, and CBG from cannabis. And so I started getting extracted portions from each plant to put together for my brain health to start bringing back my eyesight. So when I tried psilocybin and I started microdosing psilocybin, I hadn't had psilocybin in a way to where I was very afraid of psilocybin. And I tell you, as a kidnap survivor, I was not trying to trip because like Duchess, I'm like, hey, yo, I didn't compartmentalize all this right here, childhood and all that. Let's not bring that up right now. Can we just make sure that I don't go there? And so I was trying that. So I know a lot of people are like, what is she doing? I saw the studies and I'm like, we got to do something, because everything wasn't available. And so when I've tried that, DMT, ayahuasca, psilocybin, was not going to do LSD because LSD is a synthetic. I'm trying to stay away from synthetic types of things. So I was going in all of the natural. And so that's why I stayed with that. I do know sangria was a part of it, but sangria was not. And with peyote and those sacred plants, I stayed away because I'm trying to honor and making sure I don't overuse those. So with using all of the different methods to try to bring back brain health, I was trying to look in a way of, can I get back to myself? Can I see, feel, experience me again without losing me or bringing back an old version that I am not ready to deal with right now while I'm healing? Mm-hmm. So it was really important for me to kind of understand and truly have that background education and knowledge and know myself, know what I was willing to go through and know what I was not willing to go through. And also have an emergency, take me to the hospital in case I go a little off kind of thing.
It's always good to have somebody watching over you. I've done that several times for people within my healing journey and helping them along with their healing journey. So my own personal story, and thank you, Chris. Thank you for sharing that. I know that I've seen you battle with your disease, your brain disease and your eye health, and you explaining to people that even psychedelics have been able to help you with that disease is amazing. I'm sure people don't understand how that works. Most people don't understand how that works. So my personal experience, and I'll share this briefly. I was doing psychedelic mushrooms, psilocybin, when I was in college for the first time. So right after high school, and I experienced my first trip. But I was doing it for, adult use reasons, not necessarily medicinal reasons. And then after being diagnosed with HIV in 17, losing my dad and my sister in a car accident on their way to my 25th birthday in 2006, that was a traumatic event for me. And I didn't know how psychedelics would be able to help, but they did. So in 2019, when I moved here to Nevada, I experienced ayahuasca for the first time. And that allowed me to connect with my dad and my sister in the spiritual realm. And it allowed me to heal from that trauma, and allowed me to move forward. And so after that, I was like even more vocal and even more of an advocate for using psychedelics in a responsible way. Now I microdose with mushrooms. I take my dosing on the full moon, on the night of the full moon, so that I connect with a higher power and get those downloads in the right way. And so now I'm not using the medicine to get high, to party. I'm using it truly as medicine, and has made an enormous difference in my life. And I contribute ayahuasca to transforming my life, to saving my life, because at that point I still had the guilt. I still carried the guilt of losing my dad and my sister in that way, on their way to my birthday. And I did not know how to let go of that grief and that guilt. And ayahuasca allowed me to do that, truly allowed me to do it. So I'm very grateful that I found the right circle of people here in Nevada that allowed me to have that experience and feel safe and truly have the entire experience, because that's another part of it. And so that leads me to my next question for you ladies. What should people know before they try psychedelics for the first time? What's some advice you would give someone that wants to try it for the first time? Duchess, we'll start with you.
Set and setting is incredibly important. It is just, you cannot overstate the importance of set and setting. When I was at Howard and I was not doing any kind of substances, I took this class which was called the class on psychology, which is drugs and human behavior. And the thing about it is that I was very surprised. This is still in the 90s. My teacher from the Caribbean was talking about how we have the whole war on drugs wrong, and about a lot of the times people who were doing heroin, and psychedelics is not heroin, but it's the same mindset. People who are doing heroin moved, the city moved them around, and then suddenly they were dealing with all these overdoses because the set and setting was wrong. So that which their body had associated with whatever time that was not a fatal, dosage, suddenly in a different situation was like, oh my God, like they're just totally thrown off on something they would never, ever be subject to in some other time. And so the same thing with psychedelics. Our set is our mindset, and our setting is literally the place in which we find ourselves. So even though I trip for the most part with my eyes closed, everything around us exudes a level of energy that we have to be mindful of. So when you hear people say they tried and that worked for them, that's not to say psychedelics is for everybody, but I like to ask them, and where did you try it? Oh, I was with my boys and we were at this club. Well, that's why you have that experience, when you realize that the sacredness of the plant. I mean, nothing against anybody else. I just never could get down with the idea of partying on mushrooms. I'm going through so much of my shit, and even if I'm not, I'm going through the joy. Being at the club, however fun that is, it doesn't mix well with that. So, our mindset of where we are and being understanding of that, and our setting. And there's much more, so I'm going to let that go. But setting right off the
top. But that's some good advice for somebody.
I'm watching TV.
That's some good advice for somebody trying it for the first time. And that speaks to what my guiders told me when I tried ayahuasca for the first time. They said, well, first you have to have a clean, like, have you been eating clean, which was easy because you are going to purge. And then second was, make sure you set their intentions before you go into this setting. And I knew going in, I wanted to forgive myself for the guilt that I felt for losing my dad and my sister in that way. And so I just knew that was my intention. And so everything else just kind of flowed after that, which was really sacred. And I'm so grateful that somebody guided me to know that I needed an intention going in. So Mary Jane, share with us, give us a tip, some guidance for people who want to try it for the first time. What would be some advice you would give someone that wanted to experience psychedelics, any form?
I think I would have to piggyback off of what you had just said there as far as guides, good medicine people. Surround yourself with people that you can trust, or if they're your circle of influence is also trusted circle of influence. Because I think it goes back to what the Duchess said during the opening, is as much as you can grow your own, cultivate your own, or know your damn farmer, like they should be your homie, they should be your plug, just like they have always been. And now I think that is even more imperative as there is the commercialization, is that you do a little bit of that background and research if you're looking and sourcing from some sort of commercial market, about the ethos, the values, and the vision of that brand that you're getting ready to consume. I think that's important in the cannabis industry as well, to support localized farming, regenerative farming, and making sure that there's also sustainability practices, especially around questionable plant entheogens that are already protected and now they're being opened up. And it's like, the recognition that everybody now wants to be a medicine man, and they're not all medicine men. So
that's right.
Really make sure that you know where that medicine is sourced from. It's really, really important, especially now with these wackadoos out there and all of this crazy stuff with the problems that we're having with the pharmaceuticals. I don't want to see that kind of crossover into our beautiful medicine world, just to create that fear factor. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. Thank you for that. Yes. Your source is so important. I've walked into smoke shops around the country. I was in DC last week, and they're selling mushroom bars in smoke shops. And I'm like, where does this come from? Who's monitoring this? Where is the testing on it? Yes, your source is so important. Thank you for that, Mary Jane. Chris, what advice would you give someone trying, or maybe interested? Maybe they're not even at the stage yet where they're willing to try it, but they're inquisitive. They want to learn more. What would be some advice that you would give someone that is going down that lane?
I, as a guide myself, and I've guided many, and I've seen the good, bad, and the ugly. And I know what happens with pharmacokinetics. That's why I went to school. I've seen people take this and end up, it has nothing to do with the plant medicine and everything to do with the correlation, what their body and energy, their past, their mindset, their medications, what they consume that week. If you come to me and ask me to guide you, you're going to be with me for a month. And if you do not follow those instructions, you are done. I am a zero tolerance, because this is a sacred space. It's a sacred plant, and I'm not going to let you abuse it, because I know the importance of it. And I'm not going to let you make a bad name out of it because you're negligent within yourself. And please don't put my name with it. So I look at the medications that you're taking. There are certain medications you absolutely will not take with a certain natural forming psychedelics. That is an SSRI. Why are you taking an SSRI and then asking me to help you with an SRI? You figure that out with your doctor. Determine what you need to do with that for yourself. And if that is on your own and you want to take that journey on your own, and I'm so blessed to honor you and be with you, I am here to protect you, not to be your friend, not to make you feel good about it all. I got to make sure you're okay. I got to make sure that I'm protecting that plant, your soul, your past self, and your future self before that you can move forward in your life. You're set and setting. And when you're in that moment, who's around you? I need to make sure while you're in that vulnerable state that you are protected. People that go out with, I'll just give you a real quick synopsis. Someone that's taken an SSRI or other benzodiazepines for their anxiety, depression, and other things because they're in their ish. Deal with it. Please, please, please deal with it. This is not an escape. It's going to take you right to it. And people keep forgetting that psychedelics aren't here for an escape. They're going to take you directly to what you're trying to deal with, right? And that's one of the things, that's the misconception behind it. I'm going directly into that receptor. And so using my own gift, I know a lot of other shamans that I work with and other practitioners that I work with will also take full in, but I have my own gift and I can sit with them and see what's transitioning in their body. If they're about to purge out, I'll know that you didn't eat and cleanse the way that you needed to cleanse. I want you to have a good experience. If you're not doing the right things, indigenously, energetically, the divine feminine plant that's here, you have 30-day cycle. As a woman, you don't just jump into anything. You go through cycles. The same thing is with our medicine. You have to take the proper application into understanding the body and the hormonal levels, your thyroid and all that other things that's going on before you just jump in to try to, deal with something. So there's a lot that goes into when you come to me and being a guide, whether you're using any type of medicine, there's a process that has to go in place for the betterment of that person's soul.
Wow. Thank you for that. I almost forgot. That was one of the questions that they ask you before you have, before you take ayahuasca, is making sure that you're not on SSRIs.
Absolutely.
And one of the, last year, I had the privilege of helping a woman in her first psychedelic as a guide, her first psychedelic experience. And she had been on antidepressants for 30 years. And she came to me because she said, I'm been on antidepressants for 30 years and I'm still depressed. And she saw the Netflix movie about mushrooms and she said, maybe this can help me, but where do I start? She didn't know where to start. And as a nurse, as a medical professional, she knew she would have to wean herself off of the antidepressants before she could have a true experience with the mushrooms. And so that's what she did. She worked with her doctor to wean herself off of her antidepressants. And then she is proud a year later to say that she's not using antidepressants anymore and she's not depressed anymore, because the mushrooms, the plant medicine truly did help her. But it is a process because it took about a month for her to wean herself off of the.
It does. And you need a gap time when you do get off. If you're on long-term SSRIs or benzodiazepines or any of your, my background is working with mental health and, and my recovery with veterans and all of that. So I have more extreme cases with individuals that are dealing with trying to, break free. And so those long-term extensive pharmaceuticals have to have a gap. They say just like cannabis stays in your system 30 days, some of them stay in there 60 days. And that can interfere with that medicine. So when I'm looking at what medicines what are you taking? I'm coming from I've been on every schedule and most of the medications as a research patient. So I already know what you're experiencing just from knowing those side effects. So if you're telling me, I have some like they'll dibble dabble, and then there's something that, is the bad part of it. Well, they'll self-mutilate or they'll go and hurt something or hurt someone else because their brain, their trauma, all of that has come into a space of just, it's hurting. And there's nothing, there's no word for it. It's screaming. It's screaming for release. And then when it busts out, I've seen actual pharmaceuticals be far worse. And I mean, there ain't nothing on a pharmaceutical trip compared to what, our natural medicines will do. And so when I hear, and I know we can segue into legalization for that, but when a pharmaceutical can take you into realms of darkness and leave you there for years, that's what I know. And that's why you have people that are on it for years and years. I was on SSRIs for over a decade. I was on opioids for 7 years straight and benzodiazepines. So those took, before I could even think about jumping into this world, I still, even with intravenous chemotherapy, it still interfered with my plant medicine because it is a synthetic. So even if you're not taking mental health medications, if you're on a chemotherapy or some other form of synthetic organisms that are biological in your body, you have to take a step back and realize, go slow. Very slow and very kind and very intimate with yourself, because it is a journey. And you go slow and tell the doctors and your family, I'm trying this. And as I wean myself in it, I'm making sure I'm keeping myself safe. You make sure if you see my personality shift in any kind of way that's not healthy, let's talk about that thing. Don't stigmatize me. Don't judge me. No, I'm trying to heal. Talk to me. Tell me what you're seeing. Tell me how I feel to you, because energetically we're mirror neurons. We have to see each other appropriately, and let's see it so we can heal and not judge. Because if I went to a doctor and had 2 weeks of pharmaceuticals and changed my personality, you were okay with that, but you're not okay when I do it on my own. Why is that? Because that doctor don't know nothing about that medicine either.
Right. Yes. And that's a perfect, you're right. You're absolutely right. And I'm usually educating my own doctors and medical professionals on cannabis and the natural medicines that I'm taking and using to help combat my HIV and my kidneys, but just my mental health and spiritual health. I'm having to educate them on what I use. And so, I spoke about it at the beginning of this of the show. All of you ladies I have met as cannabis advocates. We are all cannabis advocates, fighting for the legalization, decriminalization of this sacred plant that we love so much. And so I know all of you, because of that advocacy work, in decriminalization and legalization of cannabis. Why have we seen a surge of psychedelic bills pass through state statute in the last 5 years that cannabis has not been able to see in the last 50 years? What is your take on why that is happening? I'd love to hear from you. Duchess, you could go ahead and start.
I actually didn't hear the question, but I'm thinking you're saying, like, why is the psilocybin revolution so much faster than the cannabis revolution?
That is correct. Yes.
Something to that effect. Okay. I think one of the things is that cannabis has greased the situation a little bit. And not just cannabis itself, but rather the shift of mentality of conformity. I think we're always just like, oh, the world's getting worse. The world's getting worse. While you can see that from that perspective, I like to see the fact that more and more people are opening their eyes to the possibilities that which has been shoved down their throat is not true. I mean, if you cannot change the world unless you change the beliefs of the people within the world. And we have been indoctrinated for so long about cannabis and all kinds of substances being bad, with the fact that cannabis is changed over in people's minds for a variety of reasons. Sanjay Gupta and the fact that he was a respected person who admitted that he was wrong was a big change. Of course, we have our moms and the way moms feel for their children, and the CBD and the Dravits and the epilepsy and people just making waves over to the West Coast. All of that changed the culture in a way of how we think about wellness. We are on a wellness kick. That's on the high side. On the crappy side is the fact that we're in the shroom boom. And people saw what happened with cannabis. And people are looking to capitalize on what's happening with psychedelics. So you got the people who are more open in heart, and it's like, I have found them, they're who are opening their wallets like, oh, we're going to fill you more. It's not necessarily good balance at all, because it's not good balance at all. And I very much appreciate when people push back against the commercialization of the idea of being better. That's where I am with that.
Thank you for that.
Grease the wheels in thought and grease the wheels in money.
That's right. Follow the money, as my friend Rico Lamite says. And Mary Jane, what are your thoughts on why psychedelics are moving so much faster through legislation, through decriminalization processes than cannabis has for decades?
I really feel like the COVID caused a hard reset for people to not be asking for permission to heal anymore. Mm-hmm. I really do believe that was a big transformational change for this nation, a cultural shift globally for people to be like, stop interfering in my damn healing journey. Just get out of my way, cease and desist, especially those that are more educated on, like the First Amendment, and then trying to figure out how did we get to this point, because this is about my sovereign individual health right and my own sacredness. And so I really do believe that that's been a big part of it, is that this global perspective changed. And I've seen it in many other areas and not just in the plant medicine side of things. And so I kind of think that that's a factor, and a big influence is we dealt with so much loss in family systems. We've had entire family systems in our tribal communities that are no longer here. And so it's like, get the fuck out of the way, leave us alone. Kind of, we're at that point.
That is such a good point. That's a valid point. I had not thought about what the effects of the big reset, what the effects of COVID have the pandemic did to all of us globally, because it wasn't just here in the United States and people that are affected here. It was global. It's a global shift.
And for
Thank you.
The rest of us, the sacred has become even more sacred.
That's right. That's right. Can you speak a little? We'll come back, but no, I want you to speak a little bit to peyote. I heard that there's a shortage as a sacred flower and plant. I mean, what is going on with peyote more recently that people are saying don't use peyote because it's so sacred and there's a shortage?
Right.
Yes, it has a very long life cycle to be able to generate, and we're seeing some of the places where it has historically and prehistorically thrived now being plowed up because people don't understand the life cycle of the root system, and it's not like, oh, it'll be okay, it'll grow back. They're permanently eradicating some of these environments that peyote thrives in. And so there's a lot of pushback from the Native American churches that had worked hard to make this a protected plant under the American Indian Religious Freedom Act, because it's already protected by federal law. And now there's a big movement to open it up into states that could compromise some of this I guess you could say the protections around it that are already at that federal level by states opening up and making it lawful to possess. But I think that that's a good part of why the conversation has become so mainstream now, is because we can start talking about conservation practices around these medicines, especially those that are very environmentally unstable with a commercialization. But it is definitely on the radars of a lot of our activists and our advocates for plant medicines, to make sure that our brother and sisters in this advocacy space also understand that there are currently existing protections and that we need to lean into those federal languages under the Religious Freedom Act.
So I have your information here on the bottom of the screen, Mary Jane. And so if someone was interested in using peyote, would the responsible way to do that be to reach out to a Native American tribal church, or what would, or are you all as a community saying do not use peyote right now? Just to be clear.
I do believe that the different Native American churches are taking their different perspectives on it. I do know of some of those communities, and peyote is not a cultural practice of the Nez Perce people, so it was not a practice. But we do have Native American churches within our reservation communities. Is that there's the traditional indigenous religious use, and I do believe that because we have become such a melting pot, we have to continue to break away from the confines of what the federal government defines as Indian, and go back more towards that kinship and the bloodlines, and that there are Native American churches that are not like, show us paper, show us your Indian, to become a part of that. And so my best recommendation is to do research on those Native American churches that are more inclusive of the healing journey that we're all on, because now we have this shared responsibility to over the stewardship, the management, and it's each other as human relationships over time have created this bond of blood amongst us all.
Wow. Thank you for that. So reach out to Mary Jane if you have questions about peyote or its use, especially right now, because this is not the first time I've heard that there's a shortage, and it's something that we have to be mindful that we don't want to wipe off this sacred plant off the planet, because they tried to do it with cannabis. They've tried to do it with other sacred medicinal plants. And so we just want to make sure that we're honoring the plant in the right way. So thank you for that, Mary Jane.
Yeah. I think that's the other part of it, is this whole, like, I don't like the term recreational, because I don't think that there's any recreational use of peyote. And so I think that that's like the hard, fast white line, or black, you know, is that there's absolutely no recreational use of peyote.
That's right. That's right. And we call it adult use, right? Not recreational. We call it adult use. There's no adult use. It's actually medicine, and it's used for healing purposes. And so thank you for that, Mary Jane. Really appreciate your insight on that. Chris, same question to you. I know that your work with veterans can shine a light onto why you see this wave of decriminalization and legalization laws coming through state statutes around the country. So can you share with us a little bit of your insight on why you think that psychedelics have moved so fast through state statutes in the last 5 years that cannabis has been struggling to do in the last 5 decades?
Mental health. We have a global mental health crisis. And we use veteran stories, and every single one of those states use a veteran story to get those legalized.
Yeah.
And the same thing's going to happen with cannabis. They will use those living experiences as well, because we are the most researched individuals outside of the Chinese population. So we absolutely will use those living experiences, like I said, with the sacred ones like myself, who have went out and been certified and have indigenous backgrounds, and went and took this as a guiding practice to help our other brothers and sisters. We take those stories to legislation for the mental health, because we already know the medications that they're on they have failed. We know the stories and the psychosis. You're talking about someone that costs you as taxpayers $2 million a year. Me, I cost you a lot of money. And 282 million mail orders was delivered out in 2018 for veterans across the nation. That's 218 million prescriptions. That is not just your blood pressure, glucose, and all of that. Those are mental health medications. So if we're really going to talk about how things are legalizing, it has everything to do with the healthcare system and the expense that we have on the actual taxation of the country. And when it comes to the pharmaceutical world, it has a lot to do with the evidence of what is medicine and what have we done with medicine. Mm-hmm. What does this mean? If you have a population that is sick and getting sicker, what are we doing? And so that they have to have an opening to be, just like Duchess and Mary Jane said, there has to be a reset. You have to see that this clearly is not working. And if you keep saying that you love your veterans and keep sending us over there to die for you, and you're not going to take into account what it takes for us to heal and be okay when we get back here, then you're going to be the person that's going to have veterans standing on that front lawn in DC going, oh, really? So how about you now go to the VA system legislators and get your prescription medications, and you don't have access to freeness and how you see to heal. And so that is truly what has happened. You have more than 22 people killing themselves every single day. That's a veteran. It's more upward of 50. And so when you have suicides that way, Nevada was hitting it real close with our children that were committing suicides. Our youngest was 8 years old while we were in the pandemic. And so when I deal with suicide calls and I'm dealing with people searching for different things like that, those are the reasons why those legislators are open. Because when I have to hear it, the mayor has to hear it, the legislators have to hear it, it gets old. It gets old. Right. It gets really old.
And it's not good. It's not a good look on an elected official when you've got a veteran that is in literal pain, physical, mental, spiritual pain, begging for them to decriminalize this plant, to allow them to use it. They had to use criminal means to even have access to it, to know that it can have healing powers.
We have to travel. That's the part they didn't hear. We would have to travel to, and I know some of the people that follow me on social media, watch me go all over the world. They didn't know, because of legal reasons, all the things that I was doing chasing land races. And if you don't know what land races is, the most sacred, close to natural form of the plant before any types of colonization or influence of man. That's where you see on Blue Mountain in Jamaica. That's where you see in Afghanistan, India. Those are the places where those sacred areas are, where they've been untouched. And so to see us as veterans pack our bags up again to go heal, what are we doing? Yeah. What are we doing? We already left this country, and now we got to go find it on our own and spend our own disability money we're supposed to use to heal, to go travel and beg a guru somewhere. Hey, look, we're broken. Can you help us? Can you teach us? And then we spend even more time away from our families and our friends and ourselves just to heal.
And thank you for that, Chris. Your experience with veterans is tremendous, and so thank you for bringing that information to the platform. And people ask me this question often: why do I see this happening with psychedelics so much faster than cannabis? And to me, it's simple. It's because of the social justice issue. Cannabis has been criminalized now for 90 years almost. Same with psychedelics. We had a surge back in the 60s where researchers were doing research on it, and it came back, and then they made it illegal again. So psychedelics have had a little bit of an up and down when it comes to criminalization, but cannabis has been consistently criminalized over the last 100 years all over the world. And so when you look at the criminal justice issue that's wrapped around cannabis, it's not the same with psychedelics. Like, there are not hundreds and hundreds of Black men and women and brown men and women sitting in prison because of mushrooms or because of peyote. It's because of cannabis. And so when you have that social justice issue compounded on the activism and the advocacy to legalize and decriminalize, when you got elected officials like a Cory Booker saying, you cannot legalize federally this plant if you don't let everyone out of prison. And the Republicans saying, well, we ain't letting everybody out of prison. So, that social justice issue keeps holding up the process and the movement forward of getting it legalized and decriminalized. And so thank you all for your insight. I'm so grateful to have you all on one platform, being able to talk about this such important medicine. Can you please share with our audience before you go? We're going to have Gaetano come up in just a minute and talk about our new page on our website, talking about psychedelics and how important it is to kind of share our platform of education to help people understand. But before you go, please share with us one thing you want our audience to know, how to find you. I've got your Instagrams down here at the bottom of the page, but if there's any other information that you would like our audience to know before you go, please share. Mary Jane, we'll start with you.
Definitely check out the work that we're doing at the Indigenous Cannabis Industry Association. The organization is celebrating its 1-year anniversary. We definitely hit the ground running to create and increase the advocacy and awareness of Indigenous protections for cannabis and for Mother Earth. And I think that the parting thing that I have for for all of the wonderful listeners, and thank you guys for joining us, is to definitely continue on that healing journey of self-love. It really, really is, I think, one of the reasons that people keep gravitating towards the, finding self in this world that really tries to, spin you around and make you feel really dizzy and not know which direction that you're supposed to be going in, that these wonderful medicines can do that. And we are all really deeply rooted here in on this continent that we call Turtle Island, and to just always remember wherever you're walking that it's, the bones and the blood of the ancestors of some Indigenous community, and just being mindful of that presence of 16,000 years of Indigenous peoples here on this continent, I think creates that shared responsibility. But definitely check out Indigenous Cannabis Industry Association, because we're going to be doing some big things in 2023 and beyond.
Thank you so much, Mary Jane. Thank you. Duchess, please share with us what you'd like them to know.
Sure. I really feel that each one of us on our journey is Each one of us makes ourselves better. We make our family, communities, and society as a whole better, right? And I believe that psychedelics is going to be key to helping us get there. I was very proud to contribute to this book, which is called How Psychedelics Can Help Save the World. It's on Amazon and available on Audible. So I would just recommend people trying out the book, maybe even just listen to a sample. I wrote about cannabis, of course, but psychedelics are going to be key. Okay? Psychedelics are key, and we're not using them. It's with their assistance we are being our greatest selves. It's with their assistance that we find our own personal and collective divinity. So I'm really excited about the little step we take forward together. You can go fast or you can go far. And of course, you can always visit my website at thedankduchess.com. But again, it was lovely to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Duchess. Thank you so much. We really appreciate you being here. Miss Chris, share with our audience what you'd like them to know before you go.
You can follow me on Miss Chris Thomas at IG, and that's where Living Free Souls is with my cannabis stuff. But for Veteran Advocacy Council, that website and everything in our Community Development Coalition, because we're making sure there's no gaps in information, because we are making sure it's whole health, all of this good stuff. And it's difficult because some of this is just federally not our friend, but we really, really, really need the community to connect. So whatever that is, and if you reach out to me, it is full resources for me to give out. That is our gift, to be able to be community and to be these advocates. I'm so blessed to be able to just share whatever I have with who and whatever you need. I'm not going to steer you wrong. And if I do, Lord bless me and forgive me, because it's not my intentions. But yes, absolutely follow me, and whatever I can give you, I absolutely will, with my heart and love.
Thank you so much, ladies. I really appreciate you sharing this sacred space with me. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Love all of you. See you soon, hopefully. Thanks so much. Talk to you soon.
Oh, wait, we got to tell them, Nicole, July's coming up.
Yes.
July is coming back up for NCF. So, hey, don't forget.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right. Yes. That's right. NCF, yes. we'll have a replay. We'll have a rematch.
Yes. We're having a rematch for this again and for July. Right. So don't feel like this is the only time with all these goddesses.
Yes, that's right. Thank you, Chris. Thanks for that reminder. I'll make sure to have updates for everyone on the replay of NCF. Thank you again, ladies, so much. Thank you again. Happy Saturday. Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. All right, coming up next, I have an amazing guest, Gaetano. Thank you so much for joining me, Gaetano. Hello, hello, hello.
Hey, Nicole.
I want you to introduce yourself, tell the audience who you are, and we could jump right into explaining what your new page on our website is going to do and look like for the community. So first start, who are you, Gaetano?
Absolutely. Thanks, Nicole. Gaetano Lardiri from Newark, New Jersey. Been in the medical profession since 1978. I spent many years working with cancer patients, randomizing them to clinical trials. Spent 26 years in cancer research. I did work for Big Pharma for many years in New York, New Jersey, and I led a team. We got FDA approval under our belts for a breast cancer drug. And then in 2013, I got into the cannabis space, started a few biotech startup companies. My latest company, Future Entheogenic Medicines, concentrates on the entheogenics and psychedelics. I'm also the director of Michelle Santos for New Jersey.
Oh, we're losing you, Gaetano. Oh, no. Hello? You there?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now. Oh, no. Oh, he just got a new modem and is giving him trouble. Oh, well, Gaetano, listen, we're going to have you back on. I hate that we can't hear you clearly right now. That sucks. But Gaetano, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now. Your screen is frozen, but as long as okay, there you are. There you are. So Gaetano, I know I at the beginning of the show, I talked about how M for MM is usually just talking about cannabis as medicine. But we are really excited to announce that next month, we're going to feature a page on our website that will be hosted by you and your organization and the research that you've done in regards to psychedelics. And so can you tell us a little bit about what people will find when they go to your page?
Yes. So if you go to minoritiesformedicalmarijuana.org and you scroll to the sections more under there, we have a page called Psychedelics as Medicine, and very happy M from M is supporting a Psychedelics as Medicine page. And we have some basic information on that page on ketamine, MDMA, LSD, and so on. And the latest research coming up, filling out that page, but there's information. Jersey has a bill S4 and 491 as putting all that information page and the latest research going on and what are being FDA approved and it coming.
Oh, Gaetano, we can't hear you.
Oh
Okay.
man.
Oh, that sucks. Okay, but listen, what he said in a nutshell was that if you visit our website, visit M4MM's website, you will go to our page and you will find Psychedelics as Medicine as a tab on our page. Please visit it because it does have information about, he said, LSD and ketamine and MDMA. Those are all categorized as psychedelics, and the research is being done around them. And so, Gaetano, we're going to have you back on with a new modem. But we're going to have you back on with some of the doctors that you're doing this amazing research with. And so you could tell us more about all of the research that you're doing in regards to psychedelics as medicine. And you mentioned that there's a bill that's passing through New Jersey in regards to psychedelics. Could you try to tell us one more time what was the number and name of that bill?
Yeah. The bill, it's S2934. It's the Psilocybin Behavioral Health Access and Services Act, and that was submitted in June by the State Senate President Nicholas Scutari. So that's got to go through the legislative process. And then there's Assembly Bill 4911. And there's also a New York bill. So there's a lot of things going on here in New York and New Jersey in the psychedelic space. Look for those and that information on the new page as well.
Thank you so much, Gaetano. Yeah, and in New Nevada, right here in Nevada, there is Assembly Bill 242 that passed through the House or through the Assembly, and now it's going to go to the Senate. And so it is decriminalizing and allowing for research, legalizing research around psilocybin as well.
And there's a lot of bipartisan support as well. Cory Booker, there's lots of bipartisan support for the psychedelics as well. And you got to remember,
go ahead.
FDA approved compounds.
Oh, we're losing you, Gaetano. Oh no. Okay, so Gaetano, I'm so sorry. Let's try to make sure that we have some better connection for you next time, so we can hear all the words. But I just want to make sure that people know how to follow you. I have your LinkedIn down here, Gaetano. Say your last name, Gaetano.
Lardieri,
right? Lardieri, is that it?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, great. So make sure you follow Gaetano on LinkedIn for any questions or more information about what he's doing in the New Jersey and New York area. Thank you so much, Gaetano, for being on today. I'm sorry our connection was a little off.
No, can you hear
I can
me?
hear you now.
Yeah. For some channel, you can have people go. We have like 40 suckers on that channel. That's our YouTube channel.
Oh, yes, the YouTube channel. Right. So make sure you follow Gaetano. He will give you all of the details. Let me see. I'm going to get this banner up for you, Gaetano, so people can know. Go to his YouTube channel and you can learn more about the work that he's doing. He said there's over 40 videos there to help you to understand more about entheogens. Cannabis is an entheogen as well. So there's so much more to learn. Thank you again, Gaetano. I'm hoping next time we'll have a better connection. So
we will.
You have so much information to share with our audience. But remember, folks, starting next month, you will get to hear or get to see on our website, on M4MM's website, a page created with Gaetano that will help you to understand how to use psychedelics as medicine. Thank you again, Gaetano. I really appreciate you being here with me today. Thank you so very much. Really.
Thank you, Nicole.
Thank you, dear. Take care. Folks, we've been full of all this great information today. I hope all of you have enjoyed it. I hope all of you have made sure you got your notepad together and you wrote down all the information. It's a lot, But I really appreciate you all being here with us today. Thank you again for joining Health is Wealth. If this video is recorded, it will be on our YouTube channel, will be stored on LinkedIn and on Facebook. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I hope you have an amazing rest of your weekend. Thank you for joining us. We'll be back next month, fourth Saturday of the month, to have our Health is Wealth again, our programming again. Thank you so much for joining us, and hope you have a blessed day. Take care, everyone.